Good day. This is Rob J. from Solar Harmonics. Um, anyway, I have a very interesting video, and the subject matter is going to be science fiction or sci-fi, one of my favorites. I can't tell you how much I love science fiction. Anyway, we're going to bring up my notes and we're going to go from there. So, sci-fi, music, topic, and the UFO incident of 1953 in my hometown of Kingman, Arizona. That's right, I was born and primarily raised in Kingman, Arizona. I also lived in Flagstaff, Arizona for about 6 to 7 years. I hope you enjoyed the Close Encounters musical tones at the beginning. I worked hard on that. I performed that on my CTX 3000 and also the Mini Moog VST synthesizer. And one of the main synthesizers that I think I need to really discuss is the ARP 2500. The ARP 2500 was the actual synthesizer they used in the movie Close Encounters. If you remember the scenes where they're playing the first 5 tones and the ships or alien spacecrafts were responding with the colors and the tones and all that beautiful light. I mean, that was just an incredible scene. The keyboard that they're playing is the ARP 2500. It was encased in like a futuristic looking setup rather than the oak or wood grain cabinetry you see there. But anyway, the ARP synthesizer, another essential synthesizer, most definitely. Okay, moving on. The featured artist I like to discuss for this video is Brian Eno. He's a musician, electronic musician, and also a producer. He produced for U2. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite U2 albums of all time, The Unforgettable Fire, was produced by Brian Eno. And one of my favorite albums by Brian Eno is Music for Films. It's basically soundtrack type of music that you think you would hear in a science fiction film or TV show. But anyway, Brian Eno, Music for Films. And my Aragon Revisited is based on Brian Eno's Aragon right here, Music for Films. Another one is the Isao Tomita, Greatest Hits. Isao Tomita is an electronic musician who primarily played the modular mode synthesizer, and he did his version of Close Encounters and also the Star Wars main title, and it's featured on his Greatest Hits album right here. Okay, moving on. Some of my favorite TV shows related to science fiction is Project Blue Book, as you see pictured here. Project Blue Book was recently canceled, I believe. They have a couple of seasons. Very interesting TV show based on all the accounts that happened and eyewitness accounts of UFOs. And one of my more favorite TV shows is Ancient Aliens. I watch that whenever I get a chance. Here's what's interesting about Ancient Aliens. They just recently had an episode that featured the Kingman, Arizona 1953 UFO incident. Very fascinating. So, as we go on here, another one of my favorite TV shows would happen to be X-Files. Oh yes, definitely the X-Files, Mulder and Scully and all their adventures, and have all the seasons. I believe there was 10 or 11 seasons. So that's X-Files. And also another one that's really intriguing, based on eyewitness accounts, alien abductions, crop circles, the Flight 19 story, how the pyramids were built in Egypt, and various other interesting topics concerning UFOs, is the UFO Diaries. And this is the VHS version of it. and there was like 12 episodes on like 6 tapes. So that's very interesting. And some of my favorite movies of all time related to science fiction is none other than the very first Star Wars movie. Star Wars, subtitled A New Hope, came out in 1977. And of course, it was just originally titled Star Wars back then. And of course, none other than Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is a deluxe edition that features 3 versions of the movie, including the director's cut and a theatrical version. Close Encounters. Okay. And one last movie that's related to the topic that we're discussing is Hangar 18. Hangar 18 is actually based on the Kingman, Arizona UFO incident of 1953. In the movie, it shows a spacecraft that's very interesting, and also the aliens are actually very human looking rather than like gray aliens that you see most of the time. And in the story, the county that they're investigating this UFO crash is called Bannon County. Well, that was just obviously used for the movie as a fictional place, but it's actually Mojave County, not Bannon County. So anyway, Hangar 18. And that's what's significant about Hangar 18. Now, so Kingman, Arizona, my hometown. This incident is obviously similar to the Roswell incident that occurred back in 1947. And there was also several media, newspaper articles. One particular newspaper article was Arizona Central, and they had an article titled, "Did a UFO Crash in Kingman, Arizona in 1953?" The object crashed northeast of the airport, according to the story. Unlike Roswell, 2 to 3 alien bodies were on board. One was reported to be still alive. Interesting. My mother, was a waitress at a local restaurant in Kingman, Arizona back in the 1970s. She claimed to actually know an eyewitness similar to the character featured in Hangar 18. The character in Hangar 18, whose name was Sam Tate, was actually a Wallapai indigenous American Indian, according to my mother and legend. One of my favorite memories of all time in Kingman, Arizona is the drive-in theater that used to be located out in the Butler area off of Stockton Hill Road. That is where I saw the very first Star Wars movie back in 1977 and Close Encounters later on that same year. So those are great memories for me, and how ironic that they are in a place where alien activity supposedly happened. Very interesting. Okay, so moving on. Oh, there's always strange sightings in Kingman and that surrounding area. Oftentimes you hear about it, including the well-known Phoenix lights that were seen over Kingman back, I think, in 1996, 97, somewhere around that time. We discussed the ARP synthesizer and its use in the movie Close Encounters. Kingman is known for the historic Route 66 that passes through town. Actually, it's all been preserved. It's all historically preserved. Also, the song Route 66, Kingman is featured in the lyrics. And there's a version of Route 66 that was done by Depeche Mode that is really good. The main thoroughfare that goes through town is Andy Devine Avenue. Andy Devine was an actor that acted in several Western movies, including some John Wayne movies. And he also resided in Kingman, Arizona. And that's another interesting topic there. Now, coincidentally, I have been to several UFO hotspots in my lifetime. Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, Pennsylvania, which is actually near Kecksburg, the Harrisburg area to be specific. If you remember the Kecksburg UFO incident, which is also featured in the UFO Diaries. I swear, it's only ironic. Florida, Indiana, Iowa, which includes Spirit Lake, Lake Okoboji, and Arnold's Park. That place is known for a lot of UFO activity. I actually have a relative who lived in that area in Iowa and actually claimed to have witnessed UFO activity around there. Here's something to consider whether you believe or not. The Nevada test sites, the nuclear explosions that took place above and underground, especially in the Yucca Flats area, the Harrisburg nuclear meltdown in Pennsylvania, and all the other interesting places where there's a lot of heavy activity of UFOs. Think about it. For that reason, it would be very simple. The extraterrestrial visitations are due to man's destructive nature with the use of atomic and antimatter energies. However, there is more. Yes, there's definitely more. The UFO story is only one of several memorable major events in Kingman. Two other events were one, the 1973 Blevy propane explosion, where 12 firefighters and several other, I think one or two other citizens perished, and there were mass casualties. One of the interesting things about that is that it's actually required training for firefighters worldwide. Yes, it is. The Timothy McVeigh Oklahoma City bomber and his connection to the Kingman, Arizona area, which was actually featured in an FBI report in 1995. So watch for two shorter videos in the near future based on these two events. So now, back to the UFO story. To believe or not to believe? That is the question that occupies us all. I would say just think of all the technological advances in the last 50 years. Analog versus digital capabilities, UHF versus VHF bulky tube televisions versus today's thin, larger, flat screen multimedia TVs, just for an example. I'd like to leave you with this quote by Carl Sagan, who was the famous scientist that had a TV show called Cosmos. Quote, "The obvious is sometimes false. The unexpected is sometimes true." So, in closing this video, please enjoy the Aragon Revisited, which is inspired by Brian Eno and features the Little Gray Alien Boogie. Please enjoy that. I'm Rob J. of Solo Harmonics. Stay tuned for future projects. As usual, all I need is time.